Hi, I'm Sarah Englebrecht and this is my YouTube presentation for EDC 1200 Self-Education and Society. The axis that I have chosen to discuss is gender, looking at its difference and deficit and relating it back to society and community identities. The event was described as a feel-good story for women throughout Queensland. Its main goal was to display just how capable women really are in the male-orientated workplace. It displays that the lady tradies have the abilities, skills, determination, strength, know-how, and most importantly, the qualifications to build. Really supports and demonstrates how important equality is when it comes to the workplace, regardless of what sex we are biologically inherited with. Although our country has evolved over time, initially we have adopted the British views of gender, where the mother produced and cared for her children, her husband, and her home, and the male of the family took to the land for work. These days, our average nuclear family is ever so different and changing rapidly. Females have taken to the workforce to earn money to provide for themselves and their families. Currently, our careers are more important and focused on than beginning a family. We have become a very structured country over the years, and our equality between men and women has almost reached an even playing field. There will always be the slight difference and deficit between genders for obvious reasons, and nationally it will still continue for years to come, before our perception of gender is truly equal. For example, things that play a part in this axis of identity are access to those male minority positions, wage equalities, and fairness in the workplace, including managerial positions, correct labellisation, when we relate to the axis of gender in our identity, its similarities outweigh its differences. Other than the obvious biological and physical characteristics that differ females and males from each other, I can't say that we function any differently, either mentally or physically. Yes, women might be smarter and men might be stronger. However, there is always the chance that these stereotypes take a role reversal. You may believe that this axis allows a wide range of topics to be discussed and doesn't go into great detail like others, and is something that is natural and will happen forever and a day. And yes, there are other avenues that I considered, such as race, to do this presentation on. But one learned from these articles of difference in gender, such as these lady tradies, as it will be an axis that will be the backbone or spinal cord of who we are, our identities. Although the differences between men and women are minimal, these differences can impact immensely throughout life. This now brings me to look at deficit between female and male, or what each sex is lacking in comparison with the other. And I believe that there are areas that each sex lack in, and it would be stupid to say otherwise. But as our brain develops and functions, these deficits are things that can be overcome. For example, and no pun intended either to either gentleman, but it seems to be that women are a more compassionate and caring sex. Forgive me if you think I'm wrong, but as you can imagine, the deficit between men and women is something with work that can be overcome to this at secondary students and taken on a more hands-on approach rather than a written one. I have highlighted a few key elements within the feature story and newspaper article that I would use to refer to as curricula. These three key elements are determination, belief, believing in yourself regardless of your gender, self-esteem and respect. When we look at those key elements and ideas for presenting them in a curriculum, several ideas come to mind. However, I've chosen a few that I think would be effective to both female and male students. Like I mentioned earlier, a hands-on approach I feel would work best to approach these key elements, learning about gender and what differs us and how to overcome the stereotypes. Using visual aids to explain these small differences and having the students participate in determining these aids. Guest speakers from each sex that displays these key elements and exercise and excursions to workplaces and conferences. Creating through art and sculpture the idea of a perfect female and male, and then displaying the differences and the deficits and allowing them to see just how minimal they are. Viewing different types of media that can display both women and men at the top in similar areas and asking them to form discussions on similarities and differences they have. Showing them and providing them physically that you can do anything regardless your sex. I'm Sarah Englebrecht, and thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.